The customer's always right,
No,
you think?
wrong. So
Okay,
wrong. Yeah. Customer is not always right. In fact, a lot of times they're wrong. And in fact, sometimes they're lying to you. And then sometimes they're just misled. Sometimes they just
okay,
heard what they wanted to hear. The customer is
sure.
not always right, but the customer is always still the customer.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz.
And I'm Franson.
This is a show where we talk about leadership, business, growth, and what it actually takes to build something that lasts.
Without the sugarcoating it and the fluff. Today, we have a guest who embodies that ethos. A man who has built not one, but two successful businesses in the competitive home services industry. So please welcome the owner of Keas Concrete Coatings and Gutter Helmet of Greater Denver, Jimmie Keas.
Yeah, Jimmie, thanks for being here with us, man. We're excited to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Jimmie, we've done a little bit of homework here, and we're prepared to pepper you with some questions. Hopefully, some hard ones. We're going to put you on the hot seat for a little bit here. Not too hot, promise, right? But your story is impressive, and I think one that hopefully our listeners will get a couple of nuggets out of. But for our listeners who are just meeting you, if you don't mind, kind of take us back here. I guess what sparked that or ignited that entrepreneurial journey for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started my career corporate world. I'm not the typical entrepreneur. I'm not the guy that's going to go out there and take the risk that, I see a lot of people take that are entrepreneurs, true entrepreneurs who take that risk and go out and they start something. I was a corporate guy and I spent my career in the corporate world, a whole bunch of years doing stuff. I worked 17 years with Kroger, 13 years at Iron Mountain. Had the opportunity to progress through the corporate world and develop a lot of good habits, maybe some bad habits as well. Created kind of that base of who I am corporately. And then after, a couple of the more recent years towards the end of that corporate career, I started to realize that I had less control of the destiny of the organizations that I was in. I had less control than what I really wanted. And where I felt like I could influence and create something, there were, the restrictions and the bureaucratic stuff that you have to deal with in those corporate environments. And I finally said, I told my wife, I said, to a point where I want to own my own company. Well, that scared everyone to death because, a steady payroll and a steady salary and all those things, and not a slouch of a salary either. I mean, I was paid well. I had some good, stuff that lots of years of great, financial stability where we didn't have to worry about a lot. And then here I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to go and throw all of that security and stability off to the side because I want to own something. Then we said, okay, so what are we going to do? Start a company? I don't know. And so I looked at it, and the more I looked at it, the more I was like, I don't know how to start a company. I don't know what I'm doing. So I didn't start a company. I bought one. I bought Gutter Helmet, which is an established company. It had been around for 17 years, and it was a dealer model. Now, here's where I'm going to tell you, this fit my corporate structure pretty well because a dealer model is a very recognizable name and brand and a lot of things that are already there. So, and you got, a corporate kind of environment background, but yet I'm running my own thing. I can do my own thing. I'm responsible for my own marketing. I'm responsible for all my own, everything. It's not a franchise. It's a dealer. That's very different. And I really liked that model. So when I bought Gutter Helmet, I was looking at, the opportunities as to, what kind of a company I would want to buy. And I never saw myself as doing gutters. Gutter helmet. I mean, what is that? I mean, when the broker presented this company to me and showed me the price tag, I was like, this is crazy. How does a company like this even exist? I just didn't even understand that. And so as I got deeper and deeper into it, I was like, this is actually fits very well with my background coming out of the service industry that I had in my corporate, jobs, taking care of employees, taking care of customers, taking care of the brand, making sure that I had something that, would live on. And so I felt really good about the purchase of Gutter Helmet. And then, kind of a crazy, weird story where I'm sitting in the driver's seat, my wife's driving, and we're on our way down to Colorado Springs. And she said, wouldn't it be cool if we could find another dealership model similar to Gutter Helmet that we could bolt on to the existing business?
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, I'm getting served an ad from Facebook. I had Facebook open as she's driving,
Yep.
and I got an ad from Facebook that says, "Hey, would you like to be a dealer in Denver?" And I thought, well, that's crazy. And I never form fill, but I did. I filled out that form, and I said, yeah, let me investigate it. And then again, I get the call, and I get a call from Randy, and he's like, and honestly, I had just signed an agreement to do awnings, and I was getting ready to do a bolt on of awnings. And here comes Randy. He's coming to town. And next thing you know, I fell in love with Randy, and family fell in love with Randy. We just like, man, this guy's a stand-up guy, and it's a dealer model. It's a protected model. It has all of the things that I look for. And one of the first things I said to Randy was like, what's the quality of the product? Because again, if I'm going to put a business that I'm going to bolt on, I want it to be a high quality product. And I even said, I don't mind being the most expensive. I just have to be the best. I don't want service calls. I don't want to have to go back and fix stuff that didn't work out well. So we ended up bolting Keas Concrete Coatings onto gutter helmet.
That's
very
awesome.
cool. And you're so when you had that moment, I guess, of clarity, or even maybe as a perceived lack thereof, your wife didn't check your forehead and see if there was a temperature or anything like that.
She knew that the temperature is already, like, I was already in a sick position staying in the corporate world, and she knew that it needed to be a change. Now, when we had to take out a loan in order to buy gutter helmet. We had to, we had to do some things in order to be able to make that happen. There has been a few tense moments, and I say, it's trading one set of stresses for another. And, honestly, being in a corporate environment, there's a lot of security, but there's a whole lot of stress to, that kind of environment. And then now you're out on your own, and you're trying to figure out if you can be an entrepreneur and you can own your own company and do all these things. And I no longer had those stresses. Now I got a whole brand new set of stresses, but they're just different. It's just a shift of where am I going to spend my time and my brain power, and how am I going to influence it? It seems so easy on paper, right? It's not.
No, not quite. Not quite, for sure.
It's not.
Very cool. So that's look, it's a powerful story, and I think the thing there is that, to your point, that you can get comfortable and you get used to the stresses that you have, but you don't know that you can or you can't until you take the leap, until you try. And Jay, one of the common themes we're seeing across some of the conversations we're having lately is that support that you get at home, that maybe sometimes the push that we get too, of like, hey, I know you need to do it, and that it's time to leave the nest, so to speak, from those that support us without maybe being on the front lines, or at least seen on the front lines, or it's critical. That family is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jimmie, now I think it's been, you said it's about 30-ish years that you've been in the industry now. Is that about right?
Yeah, well, it's a little longer than that, but we're not telling my age, but
well, I'm trying to be polite, Jimmie.
I'm actually 60, so I'll just disclose it.
Excellent.
I'm 60, and so I've been doing this for a long time. Almost 40 years. I've been doing leadership jobs. I pretty much right out of college, I got the opportunity at Kroger, and they gave me clipboard and a supervisory title and said, "Here, go learn how to manage and lead." And I'd made so many mistakes.
Sure,
but
got to make them to learn and get better. Way for 60, you're when I get there, which is not too far around the corner for me, I'm hoping I look as good as you do. And I
appreciate
it. I'm friends with Jimmie on Facebook, and I can tell you, I will not keep up with Jimmie in the weight room. That's for damn sure.
That's right.
So
that's right.
A lot of experience there, Jimmie. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about people, right? You talk about management and managing people. That's, I think, the biggest element here. It would be real easy if everybody was robots and AI was taking over everything at this point, because you just type in a prompt and they go. But what's the biggest lesson you've learned about people in that amount of time?
It's got to be you get what you present. And I try not to present, a bad attitude coming into the office and those kind of things in the morning. Some days you have a bad day and you just feel like, I just don't feel like I don't want anybody to talk to me. And what you realize is that what I do translates to how other people are going to behave from that point forward. So I try to put on, even if I'm in a bad mood, I try to put on a good face. The other thing I've learned is that, people, I've never found anybody that wants to be lied to, ever. People want to know what the heck's going on. And sometimes difficult conversations mean that you're just being candid and open and honest. And sometimes it's a difficult conversation, but you're just making sure that you treat people with the respect that they've earned as humans. They have the right to be told what's going on, even when it's a difficult conversation. And I'm telling you, I learned that if you treat people well and hold an expectation that not only am I not going to lie to you, but you're not going to lie to me, because I won't have that. And so I create that kind of environment to where trust is absolutely the most important component in business, in my opinion. If I trust you and you trust me, we're going to be able to have sometimes difficult conversations, but we're going to also be able to have those productive conversations where we can get things done just because you believe in me and I believe in you. And so, for me, I told you, as a early young supervisor, I used to raise my voice. I used to yell at people. I used to I was going to demand that they treated me with respect, because I earned this supervisory job at the age of 23. And you guys are going to, and these guys didn't respond well to that. Most people don't. And, so what I learned was that you have to treat your employees, you have to treat your customers, you have to treat your family, you have to treat everybody with the kind of respect that you're going to expect back. And I do expect it back. I mean, you lie to me and we're done. I can't stand that. I don't tolerate that.
It's a simple rule, but it's a good one.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's one of my values too. And I've had people call me and say, "Hey, I need your opinion on marketing." And I don't even work with them. And they're like, "Because I know you'll tell me the truth." And
Right.
that's exactly what I want too, is I want somebody to tell me the truth when I ask them a question, and I'm gonna do the same back to them. So that's really good. Well, one of the things that you touched on earlier about when you take over your own business, you're really given control of your destiny. And one of the things you touched on, which near and dear to my heart, is marketing, right? And
Yep.
Jimmie, you're not afraid to be the face of your brand, which I think is really powerful, especially in this day and age. You've been on TV, people hear your voice on the radio. A lot of business owners shy away from this. Can you maybe speak a little bit to why you've chosen to lean in?
I enjoy it. It's fun.
That's
I mean,
a good
I'll be
answer.
honest. Yeah. It was something that I wasn't necessarily certain I could do, but I can tell you, as a young guy, I was okay up on stage. They would put me on stage and I could present to 400 or 500 people, and I kind of enjoyed it. I got a kick out of it. And then when I bought Gutter Helmet, the model was really to do these live TV shows. And I was like, well, I go on stage, I can do this. And then, I get up on, and there's a camera there, and I'm like, okay, where do I look? I don't know what to do. And this like, well, just, and then all of a sudden you see the monitor and I'm like, oh crap, I see myself. Nah, I don't want to see that, And so you learn, though, over a period of time, that's, kind of the way that it is. For me, having people hear my voice and see that, I'm a real human being. We're a locally family-owned business. We're right here in the same community. I live right here in Denver, where you guys are wanting to buy products and services. And so I'm just right here. I want to present that. But I do get a little bit of a kick out of being able to do those things. And so that's part of it. I mean, you did say, about putting my name on the company. I do have an additional story to tell with that, if it's okay, Jay.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the parent company is actually called Preferred Concrete Coatings. That was the company that I started when I started and signed my original agreement with Pentec to start this company. It was Preferred Concrete Coatings, and it was a spinoff of my other company, which is Preferred Install. As you probably recognize with my email address, it's Preferred Preferred Install. Gutter Helmet resides under that, and so Preferred Concrete Coatings was just going to be the entity. And I got a call from John Zimmerman. And he's like, why don't you use your last name? And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I don't know about, and he goes, Keas Concrete Coatings. Come on, just say it. It just rolls. And he goes, and think about Keas. I mean, think about how many things you can do with the name Keas. And I know it's a play on the spelling, but it's Keas. It's not Keys. Well, it's crazy. One of the first radio TV spots we did was, we have the keys to, your concrete needs, and it was, there you go.
Perfect.
It was started off with
awesome.
kind of that. Originally, my thought was not to put my name on it, but as it has played out, it's been fine. And I do say, I talk to everybody. It's like, look, you're in a truck rolling billboard with my name on it. You gotta be very respectful of the fact that you're rolling down the street with my name. And I expect you to, treat that with respect.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's
really good.
Look, I love it. Jay and I were talking about this yesterday, preparing to have you on. Um, I think that the whole idea of it builds trust and it builds community. Like you alluded to that, like we're your neighbor, we're right down the street. I might see you in the grocery store, which is a big deal. I don't want to mess this up because I might have to pass you when I'm picking out, eggs off the shelf up there, which is a big deal. If Jay mentioned it, because we do have conversations with some of our clients about you should do more of it because of the opportunity it can present. But I'm going to play like devil's advocate a little bit here, Jimmie, and see if you can give me your opinion on this. What would you say to those people that might push back on it and say that it might be maybe a little bit risky? Like if you wanted to sell the business at some point one day, and now all of a sudden I've done a good job of becoming the brand of the business, like my face, my voice, my name. What's your take on that perspective?
Well, yeah, there's definitely some risk with it. And again, the fact that Preferred Concrete Coatings still owns somebody could, but as we've gotten deeper and deeper into it, the brand really is Keas Concrete Coatings. I mean, it is no doubt. And if somebody were to say they wanted to buy it, there would definitely be something that, they're not going to buy Preferred Concrete Coatings. They're going to want the name because the brand is being built around the name. So yeah, there might be a bit of pause and hesitation. And for me, if I were to try to think about selling it. But here's the reality and here's the beauty. I got a son who's young. He's coming up and he carries the same last name and he has a fantastic personality and he can do everything that I can do. He has that capacity and he has that desire in order to carry it on. So if I want to sell it, I might try to figure out how, because as somebody else comes in and does their thing with my name, that is a little bit concerning or scary, was one of the real reasons why I thought Preferred Concrete Coatings. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
But I am okay with the fact that my son is going to be around for a while and he's going to carry it. And I just don't see it as, I'm not backing off at this point. Keas Concrete Coatings, the name is there. It's out there. And people, here's another, there's just really funny kind of story. We had a couple of the installers, they went to a kind of a local training on polishing concrete. And it was sponsored and there were other competitors, concrete coating people there. And, they were like, well, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And then when our guys said Keas Concrete Coatings, they went, oh, you guys are everywhere, and it's like,
That's awesome.
That's the goal, right? So we've got that kind of reputation of being in a lot of places. I'm a firm believer. You got to be in a lot of places with marketing. And, I don't know, Jay, this maybe is a segue to something different, but we had somebody wanted us to bid a shower. And that's a little off, not normal. So I didn't send the sales rep. I decided I'm going to take that lead myself. And my wife tells me that this came from one of the print ads. It was from Gadabo magazine. Okay. All right. So I know exactly what it is. And I walk in and Gadabo magazine is in his hands. And I'm like, okay, so this ad came from Gadabo. And then he says, my gosh, I heard you on the Mandy Connell show and she loves you. And I'm like, oh, okay, but you called me off that number because I know it's a tracking number. I know that that's where you called me. And he's like, well, this? Yeah, I don't. And he kind of dismissed it as that was just where he found the phone number. That wasn't really what convinced him to call. He heard me on the Mandy Connell show. Mandy Connell said, this is a reputable company. These people are awesome people. The whole family's cool. And he's buying because of that marketing piece. But yet he's probably driving and radio's playing. People don't pick up their phone. Hopefully they don't pick up their phone and start dialing. But there's brand recognition that goes through people's brains. And then they saw me on the print, they saw me on TV, they see and then all of a sudden they hear the radio commercial and they're like, hey, I gotta call these guys. And the next thing you know, they forget about it. They're carrying the groceries in from out, whatever, and they don't think about it. And all of a sudden there shows up the magazine. Boom. On them right now because I saw it. They didn't call me off the magazine. They called me off Mandy Connell show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of connections between this piece of marketing and that piece. I was really anti-radio for a long time because of what I just said. People aren't going to call me if they hear the radio. Different people learn different things. I mean, there's tactile learners, there's visual learners, there's the people that just hear about it. I mean, crazy enough, really intelligent people who hear something and can translate that into a visualization of something, right? They turn that into something that they visualize. That to me is pretty powerful. And so doing radio just became something where it was like, I didn't think that was going to work, but I think it works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. And back up a little bit to just kind of touch on what you talked about with the name. I think one of the things that's really neat about what you said is you're not trying to build a sellable asset. You're trying to build a legacy. You're trying to build something that stays with your name. And I think that's really great. So, and again, marketing, you're absolutely right. Be as many places as you can all the time. And I've said it a bunch of times. Most people need like 8 to 12 touch points with your brand before they become a customer. So hear you on the radio every day on their way to work. And then the mailer shows up and they're like, oh, I've heard this name
Boom.
100 times at this point. That's
Very
really
cool.
good.
So Jimmy, you got two businesses now, right? So running one successful business, that's a challenge to say the least in and of itself. But you're running two. Keas Concrete Coatings, three. Okay, and you got one hiding there that we don't know about.
We started another. Yeah, we started another one recently.
Okay, so you're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. Roof Maxx of Littleton. I've had people say to me, dude, you're 60 years old. What the hell are you doing starting another company? I also have, I have a lot of philosophies, okay? But I have this other philosophy that you use it or lose it, right? So I do not want to retire. I don't ever see myself, now I'm going to slow down. I'm going to step off to the side. I'm going to let Ethan take over at some point and do some things. But I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, I made it. I'm done. I'm going to retire. I'm going to sit off on the sidelines. I believe the human body needs challenges physically and mentally in order to stay active and young. And so it's not playing checkers. It's not playing chess. I mean, it's literally going into the office and having difficult conversations and having difficult decisions to make keeps me active, I believe. And so I'm going to continue doing those things for as long as I can. Yeah, we started another company. Ethan is very dialed in on that one, Roof Maxx. I mean, it's another dealer model where there's opportunity to do stuff, but we've just really enjoyed being able to take these couple of brands and make sure that we have the number one product. Again, I don't like service calls, but we also have a client base that we can cross-reference and cross-market to.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on the third. I'll be interested to see what the fourth is at some point, I guess. But
that's right. Next year.
There you go. With you mentioned that the dealer network and quality of brand between the companies that you have now. What besides those things, is there anything that you see that is a synergy as far as running the day to day of those businesses that you can pull from each? And then are there any maybe unique challenges from each one of those that you get a chance to learn from in each category?
Yeah, you're always going to learn something about each category. I mean, I never dreamed there would be a connection between gutter helmet and concrete coatings. I thought, well, those are way different things. And what's crazy is I'm inside a garage and I'm testing the moisture and I'm like, what's going on here? Something is amiss. We're in Denver, Colorado. We don't really have this high moisture content. Something's going on. And I step outside of the garage and I walk around to the side of the house and I see clogged gutters and I see water overflowing onto, and I see all the telltale signs of what's going on that's creating some moisture issues in the garage. So understanding gutters and gutter helmet and how things work has really kind of helped me with being able to explain to a customer what's going on with their concrete coating or their concrete. It's funny because I never dreamed one would have an effect on the other, but they do. I mean, there's commonalities to, and what's so fun is you go in and you start talking to people and their eyes light up. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. I understand what you're talking about because that makes sense.
A well-rounded opportunity of knowledge for a homeowner at that standpoint, which is a cool position to be in for them.
And it's cool for me too, because it's kind of fun. And, one of my sales reps is a gentleman who worked for me when I was president of Split Rail Fence. And after I exited, he followed me. He came over to sell gutters and then started selling gutter helmet. And then now he's like 95% a concrete coatings sales rep. He can still sell gutters. He can still sell helmet, but he's 95% on concrete coatings. But he gets the same things that I've seen, the same things that, you see with the clogged gutters and those things. He understands all that. Another thing that we started noticing was that we'd get into a garage in Denver, especially when they poured they've done a basement and they over excavate in that garage area a way to form the walls, right? And then when they go and they put the dirt back, they don't fill it well. So what happens is that one corner, and you almost always, it's right over there by the door into the house, but it's where there's basement below. That dirt settles, and so the concrete drops. And there's this telltale sign. You walk into a garage and you see that blue or red chalk line, and that's where the concrete used to be, right? That concrete used to be sitting there, and that black felt that looks like it's raising up out of it's not raising. The concrete fell and left the felt behind. But you can see what's going on. And when you explain this to somebody in a way that they then understand, they're like, I'm buying with this individual. They know what the heck they're talking about. And so having different products helps me with making sure that I'm explaining to the customers the best solutions for them. Again, I'm probably going to jump here, Jay, but like I used to have when I was at Roto-Rooter, and I was a GM for them, and we had plumbers who were also sales guys, right? Plumbers are not typically known to be sales guys, right? But that's what they were. They were sales guys and they were plumbers. So a construction plumber is very different than a service plumber too, by the way. I learned that the hard way. But a service plumber, first thing is they got to be dressed well. They got to get inside the house. But then they also have to have the skill set to make a connection with the homeowner. When, a construction plumber is not going to need to do any of those things. They're there to do tinker toys. They're following maps and construction diagrams and so forth. So service plumber is very different. And I used to tell them, you guys, you got to sell. And it would be really difficult for them to learn and understand what it is they're selling. And I realized at one point, I got to change my spiel. I can't be telling these guys to go sell. And what I started doing is I told them, I said, wait, back up. Who's the smartest plumber in the room? You. You're smarter than they called you out because they don't want to deal with or don't know how to deal with the problem they're having. You're the smartest plumber in the room. How about you stop trying to sell? Just start educating. Just start educating. Teach the customer what it is that they need to know. And when you now demonstrate that you know what the heck you're talking about, now they're going to decide to spend the money with you, right? So what you're doing is, you hear that saying, right? People hate to be sold. And then you have somebody else say, oh, people love to be sold. Well, the same is true. It's just people hate to be sold something that they don't want and or need, right? They hate that. But when they want to and or need it, they love for somebody who knows what the heck they're talking about to help educate them. They love to be sold the right way. They don't want to be sold something they don't need and or want. So stop trying to sell and act panicked. Just start educating. They're going to spend their money with you. That's selling the right way. My opinion.
Jay,
Really good.
Jay, we got a lot more left, but I feel like we should just end there. That was a...
Yeah, you would want to end on the sales.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Something for our listeners to ponder. One of the things that I like about this, Jimmie, because I talk to a lot of people across the country, and some of them just started in concrete coatings and then they're exploring adding another product or service. Others started like you with gutter helmet. They maybe started with a painting business and wanted to do an add-on. And I loved what you just talked about is you can build this cohesive business where both of them support each other. I do have a question for you though. When you are running two different things, how do you manage or maintain quality customer service across the two companies? And are there some systems that you've maybe put in place to help this all work and run smoothly day after day?
Yeah, it's having the right people in place. And honestly, it's trust. I have to trust these guys, but they have to trust me too. They also have to trust me enough to tell me the truth. So I'm going to give you another story here that had happened early on in concrete coatings. We had a gentleman who was becoming the crew lead. And he was learning how to mix the product. And so he had done a couple of times and he had been doing the mixing. We had a third individual on that crew who was just being brand new, and he showed an interest in learning how to mix. And he came up to this gentleman and he said, hey, show me how to mix. And he was like, oh yeah, it's really cool. And you come over here and you do, this is a 1-to-1 ratio. And this is I screwed up. I mixed this and it's already out on the floor, and he mixed it wrong. He could have not told anybody. And I probably wouldn't have found out for a few months or whatever. But the trust was there. He knew that all he had to do was come clean and just tell me. And he also knew that if he didn't, and I found out later, that was going to be a really bad conversation. He trusted me enough to come to me and tell me. You know what I did? I smiled real big.
Yep.
And I said, go grind it off.
Yeah.
Go grind
And
it
you
off.
won't do
Because
that
we
again.
called tech support. Tech support said, oh, you got too much catalyst versus, it's gonna get brittle over time and it's gonna break and it's not gonna do well. You got to take it off. Okay. So I smiled real big and I told him to go grind it off. And he goes, are you not mad? And I said, mad? I said, I'm kind of happy. You trusted me enough to tell me the truth and you told me the mistake you made. Now, I want you to put something in place so you don't do that again. But I'm going to ask that you trust me to know that as long as we're together on this, we're going to be able to get through anything. So I've tried to instill that with every single human I have. Now, humans are humans, right? They're all different. Not everybody's the same. Some people have, a little more reservation about coming clean on some of those things. However, I try to encourage. Now, I also have, we do sight unseen inspections. I show up on sites and I don't tell people I'm coming. I just don't. And they expect it. They know that that's going to happen. Ethan will go out and do an inspection and not tell anybody that he's coming. The other thing we do is if we ever get a service call, something that's going on, first thing I do is I go and I debrief with the guys to understand what they saw, what they recall happened with that particular situation. And so that helps to reinstill that, look, if a customer call comes in, Jimmie's going to get involved. He's going to get involved. He's going to find out what's going on. It would just be way easier to do it right the first time. That's the biggest thing is like, look, just do the best job you can and do it the right way. Do not have callbacks. And when you see that something is like, it'd be easier to take a shortcut, don't take the shortcuts. Don't take the shortcuts. They don't work. Shortcuts will come back to haunt us. They just comes back to bite us in the behind. I don't want shortcuts. I want you to do it the right way. And because of that, I treat people and I pay them well and I treat them good, but I also expect that I'm not going to have callbacks because you made a mistake. I do not. When people see me have probably the most anxious or to get the most, maybe a frowny face on is when I have a customer complaint. I do not like them. I don't like when a customer calls and says, this didn't go well. Then I'm all in it and Ethan's all in it. We're all in it. We're trying to figure out, okay, so what the hell happened here? And I think once you build that culture, you do have some amount of self-regulation. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm at 3 crews right now. I'm on the border of I can't live on, not having an inventory system any longer. If I go to 5 crews, 6 crews, I'm going to have to automate with more structure in order to make sure that people don't cheat. I mean, if you think people aren't cheating, you're fooling yourselves. People will cheat, especially when you give them enough room to cheat. Now, I give them enough room to understand that, and everyone knows liar is a thief and thief is a liar, and I hate both. And I can't stand if you want to get on my bad side, you just steal from me or lie to me. So those things are bad. I don't want those. I put air tags on pretty much everything. I have them in all the vehicles. I mean, those $25,000 Lavinas each have an air tag. And at first I was trying to be sneaky and I tried hiding them. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? They're going to know, they're going to find out eventually. The guys don't even think about it anymore. And they know that I know where they are. They know where that machine is. They know where the truck is. I know right where everything is. I got it all on my phone. That is one tool I use. Eventually I'm going to have to get the inventory tracking system. And I've already had the conversations with the people that Penteca, I can't remember the names right off the top of my head, but that's been in the works. We'll end up with some more structure around having inspections on site with documenting that kind of stuff. Right now it's pretty random. I just show up and I see what's going on and I pretty much can tell. And we use Company Cam and we use Builder Prime. And I mean, we've got some tools in place to try to help us, but
Jay, we talk a lot about systems and you're a big systems guy and I'm a systems guy too, but I do think sometimes we get caught up in the systems too much and listen to Jimmie talk. There's a tendency sometimes to forget about the people and to your point, you put the best systems in place, but that doesn't mean that people are going to follow them. And the way it sounds like he's investing in it. So I think that that's an important thing to not lose sight of here is that the people at its core need to know what's going on. Again, systems are great, but not without the people.
Well, and that the tool Rilla, there's a lot of really positive things that can come from Rilla. There's also some lack of trust that can kind of ooze out of that as well. My 80-year-old sales rep finally retired at 80, and literally he was 80 years old. And he came with the business when I bought Gutter Helmet. And I said, how long are you going to do this? And he said, Jimmie, I got 3 rules. He said, rule number 1 is my health is good. Number 2, I enjoy what I'm doing. And number 3, you leave me the F alone. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, I see how that's going to play out. So 80 years old, he knew what he was doing. He did well. He closed above 50%. Why am I going to mess with that? I tried getting him to use an iPhone. He's like, I don't want one of those. He had some resistance to some of the changes, some of the technology. And so we didn't do that. Now, my young sales rep is now 70. And he's also one of those guys, he still has a book that it all works for him. And as long as his close rates are in a good space, I'm not going to mess with that. So I haven't found the need for really yet. But I do know that if I have young, trainable people that need to have some more guidance, and that would be a tool that I could employ. I just don't see the need right now to do that. And again, when I say young guy is 70, I mean, that's the Gutter Helmet guy, my concrete coating guy that's been with me for a decade now since we were at Split Rail, 56. I mean, he's not a young, he knows what he's doing and he knows how to do it. Now, he's one of those guys that's crazy enough. He's all into the AI and to, all the technology. And so he's learned how to take his iPad and, scan a room. And what was crazy is I took him to a training. He showed John Zimmerman that. Next thing you know, John's rolling this out across his organization. But this sales rep loves the technology stuff. He actually records himself using a Google whatever. I don't know. He records himself and then he shares it with me. And he's like, hey, here's where I could have, and I'm like, okay, if I create that environment with my employees where they feel confident showing me their weaknesses, where they feel confident just showing me who they are, I try to create that situation where they know there's like 2 or 3 things with Jimmie you just don't do. Lie and steal. Those are 2 of the biggest ones. But the rest of it is all pretty much, he's going to coach you. He'll teach you. I mean, and I do. I've got years of experience of doing stuff. And I try to teach people. Well, I'm not going to tell a sales rep that I'm a better sales rep than they are. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I hired you to do it. Because you're better at it.
There you go.
Yeah. That's really
good.
We
got other questions, but we got to find a way to get the Keas like meal plan or whatever it is and like post it for the listeners. I guarantee that's the biggest question. Like 80, 70, so, 60, you guys are all, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, one thing that you touched on was at 3 crews, I can navigate a lot of this stuff, maybe without all of the systems in place. And obviously you're people first and trust is kind of the foundation of the way you run the business. And I think that to your point about the inventory system, good systems empower those good people. And it's going to help reinforce that consistency, which is going to also reinforce the trust that you have in your company. So I think that you do get to a certain point in the size of the business where you can't really scale the business any bigger with just kind of that intuition.
You can't. You absolutely can't. In fact, at 3 crews, I'm probably pushing my luck right now. And honestly, you get like a weak link in the system with somebody, everybody knows who that is. And when they're being held accountable to the same standard that I am, then now we're playing level playing field. And so I am investigating the inventory system. I'm investigating a couple of different technologies so that we can get to the next level. I can't scale up bigger than where I am today without adding probably a little bit more technology and without adding some things. I just want to do it in a smart way. Another thing that I get very frustrated by is annuity-based revenue. I love on the receiving end. I hate it on the outgoing side where there's another monthly bill that just keeps coming. And I'm also a big believer that, if I sign up for it, we better be using it. And that's another difficult thing when, you sign up for something and all of a sudden you realize it's not being utilized to the capacity it needs to be.
Absolutely. All right, sir. Well, we got a segment we'll run through from time to time. We promised we were going to put you on the hot seat or put you on the spot. So we'll take you through a segment we call Hot Takes and throw out a statement here and get you to give us your unfiltered opinion, so to speak. So I'll let Jay roll us out here with our first hot take of the day.
Yeah. So the customer's always right.
No.
You think?
Wrong.
No?
So wrong. Yeah. Customer is not always right. In fact, a lot of times they're wrong. And in fact, sometimes they're lying to you. And then sometimes they're just misled. Not sometimes they just heard what they wanted to hear. Customer is not always right. But hey, at the end of the day, who is the customer? Still the customer. It doesn't matter. They could be right or wrong. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. All that matters is your reaction to that situation and to that scenario. I don't let customers off. with being wrong. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not going to say, you're lying. And I'm not going to come right out and do that.
Sure.
The customer is not always right, but the customer is always still the customer. They're in a different position. They're the ones that hold the keys, and they hold the money in order that you want. That's what you're trying to do, is get them to, have a sale and to be a referral and to do all the things that you want to do. So again, it's humans, it's people, it's treating people with respect, but it's not letting them get away with just blatantly being wrong. But you got to be careful about how you reposition that. So for me, if customer calls and says, hey, Brock told me that this concrete was never going to crack again. I know that's not true, because he and I have role played this to understand exactly what is said. What is said is, I can mend that crack. I can fix that crack. What I can't do is guarantee that crack won't come back. Now, because it comes back, it is a very repairable system. I can fix it. It's just not part of the warranty. That's word for word what the sales reps say to the customer. So when somebody says, well, they promised me it would never come back. No, he didn't. Now, I'm going to be very careful about how I reposition that. I'm going to suggest facts, no emotion, and I'm going to tell them, here's how we're going to address this, and we're going to move on. But we never told you that it would never crack again. That doesn't come out of our vocabulary.
Well put. And keeping that emotion in check at those times could be difficult, but that's a big part of it. There's no doubt.
That's the only way you can deal with those situations, is you have to say facts and keep emotions out of it, because once you get emotional, people are, it feels like it's an attack. Yeah. But if I just come back and say, well, it's maybe a little different than the way that we would have normally positioned that. The fact is, and that's where I say the fact is, here's how we talk about this, and here's what we can do. Now let's talk about what we're going to do to fix it. And you know what? I understand this is a big deal. I'm just going to take care of this first one for free. But you have to understand, if this crack comes back again, I will have to charge you. And I'm not trying to make a lot of money on service calls.
Yeah.
And then just diffuse it.
Yeah, I like it.
I didn't let you off. You're not getting off by telling me that we did something we didn't do.
There you go. Kudos to you for that. Jimmie, man, this has been an awesome conversation, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, I got maybe one final question here for you. So for an entrepreneur that's out there that might be listening right now, who, let's say, is on the verge of giving up, what's one thing that you would say to them to maybe help out?
Yeah, on the verge of giving up, chances are you either are doing things you're not good at, somebody else could do it better, and it's frustrating, or you're doing things you don't like, which you should probably give those things up too. Find people around you. It's funny, we're in the process of rolling out, Home Depot and doing the stuff there. And I took my admin with me, not my wife, but the one who's on gutter helmet side. And she's also supporting on the coatings and helping me with the rollout of Home Depot. You know why? It's because I suck at a lot of the paperwork crap of that side, and she's really good at it. And so when she was there, they said, okay, so who are you and what do you do? And we did all this stuff. And I just said, well, Stacy's selling herself short. The reality is she does everything I don't want to. She takes care of those things and it's one of those things where, even in the office, it becomes a joke. It's like, I really suck at doing some of these things, and Stacy's good at it. So I just let her do those things, and she does it better than I do. You need to find, if you're on the border of caving and giving up, you need to figure out, what are those things that I shouldn't be doing? You hear the term working on the business, not in the business. As entrepreneurs, we work in the business all the time, and a lot of people do. However, the more you can get it to a status of you're doing less and the business relies on you less, you're going to have more fun, and you're going to feel more to grow and do the things that you want to do in order to stay in it for that. And if you're in it and you're just like stress all the time, maybe you need to take a chance and go the other direction and go find a corporate job. But I personally cannot see myself ever going back to that corporate world, because of what I find enjoyable in being the owner of a company and being in an entrepreneurial space where I can move on a dime and I can change the direction of the company fairly quickly. And I've created the structure where other people do the things I don't want to do or I really suck at. So if you're about ready to cave, you're probably doing too many of the things you don't want to do and too many of the things that somebody else could do it better.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff. Jimmie, thank you so much, man. This has been a great time together. Love your wisdom. You've accumulated quite a bit in your short time here on Earth so far. So it's been an honor, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been a fun time for sure. And for our listeners out there, if you want to learn more about Jimmie and what he's doing, we'll make sure we post some of his websites and links, and check him out on LinkedIn. I'm sure, like most of the guests and the people in our world that are successful, they're happy to share and help in any way. So we'll make sure Jimmie's pages are available for you to check out.
Yeah. And that's our show for today. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you join us on our next episode. We're going to be joined by the elite Mr. Jake Thomas. He's the VP of Sales for Pentec Industrial Coatings.
That's right. Yeah, Jake has a really cool professional journey. I think he started as a intern and all the way to VP level now at this point in his journey, and just some great wisdom for some of the younger listeners out there to maybe stick through what they're doing and earn their stripes. So we'll get a good opportunity to learn from him about what the outlook of Pentec and the home remodeling industry looks like for 2026.
Yeah. And until then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, et cetera, et cetera. Above all else, stay relentless.
Happy hunting, everybody.
Thank you.